Alright, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be kind of following up a video I did a few months ago called Answering 10 Questions for Men. Okay, it's one of my favorite videos I've ever made. I had an awesome time making that. Everything about it was fun, and I think that it's a video that you guys liked as well. It has hundreds of thousands of views, a very good reception and everything, and I want to I guess, follow that video up in a way. It's a really fun concept, and I guess at the end of the day, we're answering some questions that need to be answered, right? These are the questions that the world needs answered right now, so we're coming back today. And yes, I am playing Modern Warfare in the background of this video. That might seem weird considering the fact that I probably haven't put gameplay of Modern Warfare in the background of a video in months either. So with that being said, I kind of just want to jump into everything here. These are the top 8 questions you should never ask a guy, okay? So the video name is already very dramatic. You know, when I clicked on this, I was expecting just the most ridiculous questions ever, the ones that were going to offend, insult, and destroy men's integrity. And we're going to see if these 8 questions follow up with the title or whether or not they're just, I guess, generic questions that could easily be answered by most men. Before we get started, I do want to say that the majority of you watching this video have yet to subscribe to the channel. I want to remind you that subscribing to the channel helps me out a lot because obviously you get notifications for all my newest uploads. I put out 2 to 3 videos a day, and if you ever get tired of hearing my obnoxious ass, then guess what? You can go ahead and unsubscribe from the channel, so go ahead and hit the button down below and make sure to turn on notifications. And with that being said, let's go ahead and start answering.
Am I prettier than blank? You've heard it a million times. You shouldn't compare yourself to other people. You also shouldn't ask your boyfriend to. You're putting him in a weird position.
Okay, so I guess a little bit of a varied response is coming from me on this one. Yeah, it probably isn't cool to put your boyfriend in this position, especially if it's your boyfriend. I feel like it's a little bit differently if, you know, you're in the talking stage or if it's a guy friend, quote-unquote guy friend, and things like that, right? That's, I'd say, a little bit different than your boyfriend, because if it's your boyfriend, he has to answer one way. And at the end of the day, all you're showing is that you're very insecure and you're just looking for reassurance, which is fine, right? Like, I understand that people need reassurance and whatever, but I mean, it's gonna annoy your boyfriend for sure. Now, if you're asking this to a potential interest or, you know, a friend or something like that, I feel like it's a bit different. They can actually respond in other ways if they're wanting to be a little bit of an asshole or whatever, right? And yeah, you know, but they're probably still going to give you the answer they know you want to hear, so it's just a stupid question to ask anyone. But it's not like if you ask this question that I'm going to go into a fucking big flaming ball of rage and just beat you until you're unconscious or anything ridiculous. I mean, at the end of the day, you already know what I'm going to answer, so.
2. Would you still love me if? Obviously, if love is on the table, this is a relationship you're pretty invested in. You feel comfortable together, and so you're wanting to dive deeper into the limits of his love. Stop. Asking hypothetical questions is asking for a disaster.
Once again, yeah, it's a very weird question to ask somebody, and you probably shouldn't ask it simply because it's stupid, and they realistically only have one answer that they can choose unless they want to upset you. I mean, like, if your girlfriend comes up to you and is like, would you still love me if I had no arms or legs? Like, you still have to basically say she'd be your little chicken nugget, or else, basically speaking, she's gonna fucking hate you for the next 48 hours and you're sleeping on the couch or whatever, right? Or she's not gonna text you back, or she's gonna be moody. I mean, come on now. You already know what answer you're getting. Like, it's not as if these questions are offensive or are gonna, like, destroy men's confidence or, like, really send us over the edge or anything. But I mean, you're just putting people in a predicament that they don't need to be put into. And there's better ways of getting reassurance, I feel like, if you're honestly that insecure or you just feel like getting some reassurance at that point in time. The way this video is kind of phased, I guess, it's made to sound like, you know, oh, if you ask a guy these questions, they're gonna turn into fucking King Kong, climb a building, throw you off the edge of it, you know what I'm saying? Nothing crazy is gonna happen. But, like, don't you want to ask questions where there's an actual, you know, varied response, where, like, they can actually answer it honestly, instead of just, you know, basically being forced into complimenting you in a way? I don't know, maybe since I'm a guy, I just don't really understand the phrasing of these questions or what it is, but that's just my personal take on it. I don't think this has anything to do with don't ask a guy this. It's more or less just this is a very pointless question. You should avoid it at all costs with anyone.
3. Why didn't you call me? So you've been on a couple good dates and he said he'd call you, but he hasn't. You let it stew for a few days, then a week. Eventually you can't take it anymore and you send a text like this. Why didn't you call me?
I don't think this is something you should never ask a guy. I mean, maybe this is like an individual thing or whatever, but if, you know, let's say me and a girl went on a couple dates, right? And, you know, everything was going well. In that case, I'm pretty confident that I would still, like, be trying to communicate with that person. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't just like ghost them for a week. But I don't think that this is an unreasonable or ridiculous question to ask. Let's say a guy does ghost you for a week after, you know, a few good dates or whatever. I mean, we're all fucking adults now, you know what I'm saying? We don't have time to be wasting on, you know, ridiculous things, right? Dragging out things that don't need to be dragged out. I honestly would personally rather a woman text me something like this because, number one, if there is something wrong, that gives me a reasonable point to now expand on what went wrong. Because I feel like it's low-key kind of just not cool to just unload a bunch of negative shit onto him out of the blue, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, our date sucked, or I don't want to be around you or anything. Like, you know, I feel like there should be kind of a natural segue into that point of conversation, but... And it also shows that you're interested in the person, and as a guy, if a woman shows interest, that's very attractive, and that's a very cool thing, because guys, at least I am, I know a lot of other guys are, we're horrible at taking hints. So it's like, you know, if you actually show interest in building something, I guess, a relationship or whatever, that's honestly something I would say is good.
How many people have you been with? This one isn't necessarily off limits. It's fine for couples to talk about their sexual histories. It can even be a fun, sexy way to get to know one another.
I mean, I feel like this is a reasonable question, once again, to ask anybody, especially if you, like, plan to make things, like, go to that point, you know? You don't want to just be out here... Okay. How can I put this lightly? First and foremost, J. Cole taught us something invaluable, okay? You have to take the number of bodies that a woman has told you and multiply it by 3, okay? So if she says 2, in reality, we're talking 6. If it's 7, we're in reality talking 21. So there's that. But then on top of that, like, that's I would say, pretty reasonable thing to ask anyone. It doesn't really matter, you know what I'm saying? If someone can't be that open with you, then, like, there's a pretty good chance that they're not going to be open about other things in a relationship, so... It's not like it's a question that if I were asked this question, I'm not going to freak the fuck out and lose my mind or anything crazy, but...
Number 5. Do you believe in soulmates? This one can be stickier than you'd think. I've seen some pretty big fights over the idea of true love.
Why would this be a bad question to ever ask a guy? I'm not necessarily sure, but no. This is not an off-limits question. This is not something you should never ask a guy. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if women understand this or not, but guys fully understand the concept of being in love with somebody. Like, guys fully understand the concept of being attached to somebody. We're not fucking cavemen. We don't just, you know, scratching our heads, slamming a fucking wood club against a cave wall. I don't think I know anyone who doesn't believe in soulmates. That might make it a kind of ridiculous question, but once again, this is not something that if you ask a guy, he's just gonna lose his mind over. This is insane.
Do you watch porn? This is another one that you should think before you ask it.
I mean... I don't know if this is something you should never ask a guy, but I mean, it would definitely, especially in the wrong context, be a little weird. I mean, if you're having a little bit of a filthy conversation or something like that, sure, this is a question you can ask. I don't know if it's just me, but there's really not that many questions that if they were asked to me, I would just freak out or like I wouldn't know how to respond, you know? Like it's gotten to the point where, you know, you just have to understand that there's no guy out there who ain't watching porn. I hate to tell you women, I don't know if this is a thing that it's a deal breaker or something, but every dude watches it, okay? It just, they do. Unless they're one of those people who say that they're part of NoFap or whatever, or they're fucking Amish, they're checking out some of the hub, okay? It's something that's going on. You may not even really have to ask this question because it's probably just a given, but I mean, once, I feel like I'm just on a fucking vinyl here, just looping over and over again. This is not a question that guys are going to be offended over most of the time, at least from what I understand. I wouldn't be offended if asked this question.
Where is this going? A classic question with no good answer.
I don't see how, what are these questions, okay? Like, I just don't see how this is problematic to men either. Once again, as a man, if I were asked this question by, you know, a significant interest or whatever, like we're in the talking phase or whatever, I would not be upset. I would not feel offended. I would not feel pressed. I wouldn't feel like they're being too pushy or clingy. It's very reasonable to, I think, be... maybe invested in the stages of a relationship. Once again, I'm 20 years old, you know what I'm saying? I don't really have time to waste, you know? I don't feel like fucking doing this stupid indirect thing for months on end, right? I prefer somebody to be straightforward with me. If they don't fuck with me like that, then don't, you know, stick around and pretend you do. hide your feelings from everybody so they don't know how you feel. I'm not all about that, you know what I'm saying? I'm about developing shit to a point that makes sense, that both people understand, and I think this is a very valid and reasonable question. I mean, maybe if your dude's playing Warzone or he's with his friends, don't ask him, but this is a completely valid question to ask most normal men any other time, right? Like, this is not gonna be an issue. And if it is, then that guy is upset over something that's ridiculous, I'd say.
8. Who is she?
I mean, this, I guess, is kind of reasonable, you know? It depends. I think it's reasonable to ask this question if you're in a committed relationship with somebody and you notice them talking to another woman a lot. Maybe, I guess, that's a very valid thing to ask. I mean, you might not like the answer, or you might not like what you find out. And yeah, it depends on how you phrase it, to be honest. I mean, if I'm talking, I don't know, like my mom on the phone, right? And you're like fucking Craig's girlfriend in Friday, and every time that you see me talking to some woman, who is that bitch, and all that, yeah, that's different, right? Because you're basically subtly implying that you think that you're cheating, right? So, but when it comes down to, like, you know, being in a committed relationship and he's just talking to some random woman a lot, you know, that's, I think, a fair question for anyone to ask, right? Like, who is she? It just depends on how you phrase it. I mean, don't come at him sideways acting a fucking idiot over it, but you can ask it in a polite and, I guess, unassuming way, you know? But at that point in a relationship, like, if you have to constantly question what the other person's doing and who they're talking to all the time, like, that's not probably a healthy relationship at all, because you're clearly insecure and you're going to be insecure, and that's probably not a good thing. So overall, I feel like these questions were really overhyped, you know what I'm saying? I feel like they made it out as if, like, oh, you ask any of these questions to a guy, they're gonna go fucking, you know, just start freaking out, go on a rampage, you know? And that's not even the case at all. If anything, some of these questions are socially awkward to ask, or they might be inappropriate in certain contexts. But these questions essentially aren't anything off the wall that'll destroy your relationship with somebody. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel. Follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at @SubToOptimus. Make sure to check out Shop Opti down below. Thank you to my channel members. Your support helps my channel tremendously. And until my next video, guys, this is Optimus. Really not fretting over questions. Not that much. There's probably like 4 questions you could really ask me that would honestly kind of make me freak out. And signing out.